Go.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're in Bonners Ferry, Idaho at Mugsy's.
And you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars, the podcast that blends the modern scooter lifestyle with a twist of the paranormal over a cool cocktail. This independent podcast follows a group of modern Vespa riders in search of classic pubs, dive bars, and haunted taverns. Last week, we looked for Sasquatch. This is not smart or safe, but it's really fun. As a disclaimer, we never encourage drinking and scooting and keep our intake to just one drink per hour.
I thought chasing Sasquatch was the not safe part. We were talking about the drinking.
So anyway, welcome to episode 26, Lonnie. What does that really mean?
Do we have to do this every freaking time? Yeah. Can we just call it 27? Nobody's checking anyways.
I think you're right. There's very little comments on our page about what number we're on. Just that we're a little slow in getting these things out.
Well, we are slow.
There was a bonus episode, though. That's why we're there.
Whatever.
Anyway, this urban ride to Washington's largest metro area is called Emerald City Entities.
So you must be talking about Seattle.
Seattle, Washington. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, guys, is we're going to be off script today.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I've been a little busy.
Doing what?
Well, I put my house on the market, and it went on Friday night.
Which was 5 days ago?
That was
3 days ago.
3 days ago.
3 days ago.
I was counting.
Apparently, it's sold.
Get your shit together.
Yeah.
Moving out.
So, episode 27 will be our final episode.
In the garage.
I mean, the studio.
Yeah, in here. We'll be finding a new podcast space, and I've got my eye on a nice studio downtown.
Where will Bethany stay?
She's got her eye on a trailer out in Puyallup.
No, it was me. I've always wanted an Airstream, so it's always been me. And as a matter of fact, I think we could get an Airstream. I think that would be the funnest thing we could do. With a patio and a little fire pit and a commercial kitchen, a little outbuilding next to it.
It's the way of the new Catholic, I hear.
I think so. So I didn't have time to really throw a bunch of notes together, so I expect your smartness and alacrity to really fill in the blanks. Is that a word?
Whatever that means.
Good thing I don't know what that means. So
I'm not sure I do.
We're free.
I'm not sure I do.
Okay, I got to go.
No pressure on us.
Okay, so we just returned from our ride. We went over the mountains.
The big ride.
The big ride. We did about, 550 miles?
A little over 500 miles.
Yeah, and so we hauled our scooters to Spokane. We dropped them off. We parked our vehicles at Craig Pierce's house.
Yes, great place.
Yeah, in the south area by a big golf course. I can't think of the name of it. Lonnie, you should know. You're a golfer.
I should, but I don't.
And he was very, very welcoming and hospitable and let us park our trucks in his neighborhood. And
drink at his bar?
Yeah, had a bar in the basement. In fact, we counted it, I think.
Yes, we did.
And we took off on our ride, and we headed south from there.
Well, the whole weekend went south.
Yeah, well,
From there.
I had a little trouble. We'll be doing a full podcast on our ride to the Inland Empire, the Dark Treasure, the hidden gem. What did Keith call it? What was it? He had a name for it. Pendominomo.
Yeah, stay tuned.
I think it was the Inland Empire Dark Treasures.
That could be. It was something along those lines.
And gems. Yeah, it was fun. We had a great time with a little bit of first time in all these years that we had a little bit of scooter problem. I mean, held us up a little bit. Well, you did last year. I'm sorry. You held us up even longer than I think my broken exhaust.
Yeah.
And
Keith worked a hell of a lot harder on yours than he did on mine.
Well, you just wanted
he was sweating his ass off down there.
Yeah, he did a good job. And then the year before, Greg had something go up inside the lining of his wheel, of his fender, of his rear fender.
Yeah, I think it was Mike's rear fender.
Yeah, and then
that's another story.
There was that. So anyway, it was a great time, and we're back safe, and we'll be getting out a podcast about that. But this is one that's been sitting in the wings a little bit and it was such a great day. So the Emerald City Entity podcast is on.
This is Jessica at the Swiss in Tacoma, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
So what's been going on? What's been happening since we got back?
We haven't sold anything, but
like your house?
Yeah, I have saved my liver. I think I'd take a few days off.
Yeah, after the ride.
Yes.
How many days?
I took 4 days off.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I had the yips for a little bit, but got through that. And
Did you wake up in the middle of the night all sweaty?
I've had the self-loathing?
Yeah, well, the self-loathing, the anxiety, all those things.
Am I home yet, or is this just a dream?
Well, not only do we feel bad about ourselves, our wives just add to it.
Yeah, there's an immense dark cloud above us.
Yeah. Oh, you're back. So I had several days of that, and I wisely took an extra day off so that I could work through it. It's like a personal shame moment.
Yeah,
and I worked through it on that Monday.
That's
get some
a
work
veteran
done.
rider right there, taking that following day off.
Got that done, and really, I've been working pretty hard to put a month together in the boat business.
Why would you do that?
Because I have to. Or I have to sell another house.
And we know you're a pro at that too, and I'm sure you pulled one out of your ass, and the boss is happy.
Well, we'll see.
Wait. Oh, never mind.
Happier. How about you, Lonnie? What have you been doing?
You know, I also took a few days off, and the hardest thing I drank was a White Claw, a regular, teenage girly drink. But I needed a few days off.
So you went over the mountains again and
I
went
did.
to Cle Elum.
Yeah, I went to Suncadia and celebrated one of my son's 30th birthday with some family and friends, and didn't play any golf, but enjoyed some time, and it's nice over there.
They're all growing up so fast.
So did you hear him say family and friends? Did you get anything in the mail?
I did not make it to Suncadia.
I didn't get it.
Must have got one of those mail thieves.
Sure looked like they were having fun with all the people they love so much. So anyway, happy birthday, Max.
So, yeah, well, point taken, and message delivered.
And then Bobby Chong, who's not here today, he went back over to Whidbey, right? He went to Whidbey Island for the weekend. He has a couple extra scooters up there. He got 2 new scooters, both from Vespa Portland. One was a genuine for his wife. I'm not sure which one. Genuine Kick, 125.
125 Buddy or something.
Kick, I think. And then he got that new HPE talked about on the last one. But he took his old 300 GTS up there, and that's what he's riding up there. They had a great weekend, and you were at Camino again.
I was, yes.
That Bobby Chong, he's got a scooter in every port.
Really?
Almost, yeah.
How about you, Lonnie? Any new scooters in your world?
Well, not actually a scooter, but I did happen to buy a Royal Enfield 500 Classic. That's a few years old, but it's got a little history behind it, and it should be a really fun bike.
That's pretty exciting. Can you share the history?
Yeah, sure. So my wife and I were at a fundraiser auction, and this particular bike was donated by Ryan Lewis, who is Macklemore's right-hand man / producer. And he donated this bike. That was one of 4 that they used to film the video for their song Downtown. That was done in Spokane a few years ago. And if you watch the video, you would see this custom chariot being pulled by 4 of these Royal Enfield 500 Classics. And we were able to buy one for a little more than what it's worth. That's how
it's buy high, sell low.
That's the way we roll. So we're actually going to meet Ryan tomorrow, get some autographs, some pictures, and
is he going to sign your bike?
He's going to sign
Just
my
your
ass.
Helmet.
Oh no, and your breast.
No, yeah, he's going to sign the bike and some other stuff, and so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm looking forward to seeing the bike too.
Well, someday.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You need to get invited first.
And then, do you guys know what Keith was up to? What's he been doing? Pendominono.
I think he actually went back to work on Monday. That was his plan.
He did. And I think he had the cold sweats and self-loathing because he sent me a text
saying he was happy to be back to work.
Yeah.
And out of the bar business for a few days.
Oh my God. We didn't hit all our 40 bars. We hit 35 of 40 because of a little slowdown there.
Yeah, a little
in
hiccup
the midst
on the
of
last
it.
day.
But glad to hear everybody's on the right side of the grass, and we're moving forward. There you go.
Hey everyone, this is Larry from Walt's Bar in McKenna, Washington. You're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars, the podcast.
All right, here's where I make my everlasting appeal to follow us on our...
Lizard, you and I can check out for about 5 minutes.
Well, Lizard's on the social. You're not. Follow us on Facebook, where we're called Chasing Ghost Pod, but all you have to do is put in Scooters, Ghosts, and Bars, and we pop up everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, the Twitter, and Pinterest. No, not on Pinterest. But we do
Not
have
yet.
we do have some great scooter shots. I just posted one that got a lot of attention. It was a Hennessy. I can't remember what it was called. Streamliner. It was really
That was cool. It looked like it was going backwards almost. It was
very cool. And when we continue to work hard at making sure we keep you engaged, so please join us. And most of you that are on our Facebook page don't listen to the podcast, so thank you for that. We also continue to need your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and also on Facebook and Himalaya that we've talked about in the past. Please grab that new app. It works really well. It allows you to follow us and even throw a tip or two our direction to pay for the drinks that we need in order to produce this
Speaking
podcast.
of a tip, do you will you be open for advice?
I'm always open for constructive
Have you gotten
criticism,
any
just not
constructive-
from you.
I have nothing to offer, but can the people have some?
The people?
Yeah, the people, your people.
Yeah. We get comments here and there about advice, like
Oh, really?
shut up.
How come you don't share that with us?
Well, because
You only share the positive.
all you have to do is let me set
You
you
and
up
Trump,
with
I tell ya.
a social media account. You can read it for yourself.
You know what? I think somebody that shares some advice with us, we should include it on the next podcast.
Well, that's a really good idea.
You know, we could have scooter news and spooky news and
Comments from listeners.
Scooter
Yeah.
comments.
I like it. Okay, send me your comments.
Yeah.
I'll share them. You know, by the way, did you remember that Bobby Chong, for the first time in his life, has a social media accct? I opened
That's
it for
right.
him
You
on
set
our
him
trip.
up, and away he went.
He was an Instagram whore.
his fingers were on fire.
He was like, I'm like trying to document the trip, and he's like, oh, I already posted that. It's already done. I said, Bob, you've got 4 followers.
Yeah, you woke up an animal that day.
Oh my God.
I think he's on Tinder now too.
And not Grinder with Keith. Hey, so we also have some new listeners around the world. We want to welcome and say thanks again to a bunch of New Zealand listeners. That has kind of blown up a little bit over there, so thanks, guys. Brazil is now in the mix. Loving that. India and Russia have picked up a little, and the UK, of course, is strong over there. They've got a huge scooter crew. Italy is, of course, present, but we've added Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic.
Huh.
Do you know anything about them?
Yeah, it used to be Czechoslovakia, and they got split after the war,
So,
the Cold War.
is English their native language?
Not quite.
You know, speaking of the UK, I have a quick joke.
Uh-oh.
So a 3-headed, no armed, one-legged man is standing at a bus stop in London, and the bus driver drives up and opens the door and goes, "Hello, hello, hello. You look armless. Up on." Okay.
I apologize for that. So anyway, we're excited about the Czech Republic and Hungary and also in South America, the Brazil group. And I would like to say at this point, we're the largest geographical scooter podcast in the world.
No way.
Absolutely.
Adding more to the qualifications
Yeah,
of
that
number
features ghosts and bars. So there you go. We're the biggest. And we spread out the most. We're like an octopus around the globe.
one. Octopi.
Octopi. No, just one.
Oh, one big one.
And we also mentioned. Well, fuck that. We're going to stop now.
This is Sam from the Mule Tavern in Tacoma, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
What?
I've got a question for you. I didn't get invited to one scooter ride that you guys had in Tacoma.
You were invited.
Well, I couldn't go though. But
So you said no. You
Well,
turned it
I
around.
said I couldn't.
Passive aggressive.
well, but I heard I missed a great interview with a man named Rusty.
Well, not only a great interview, but we joined the Grit City podcast guys for that boot to boot that we talked about last time. And yeah, we met Rusty from the church cantina while we were on that ride. And we were able to spend a little time with him. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a bar owner. He's a all-around good guy and an oft guest on the Grit City podcast. So they bring him on there all the time because they must need filler here and there. He's got a little haunted bar, a little gothic haunted bar, and we did a little interview with him. And I think that I said we were going to share it on this podcast.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it. So here's Rusty from Church Cantina. So I'm sitting at the Camp Bar in Tacoma, which is a great spot to be.
It is. I like what they've done so far. Like, I came in here when they first opened.
It was a little
off. Now,
but they've been filling in.
Yeah, makes sense now.
And you own a bar and restaurant that my family loves, and that is
so glad.
Church's Cantina. The Church Cantina.
The Church Cantina,
yeah, it's out on South Tacoma Way.
Yep. 54th South Tacoma Way.
And you're celebrating your first year.
Yeah, here in August. I don't know when this comes out, but in August 15th.
Well, knowing us, it could be next year.
Well, there you go.
Never know. But you also do stand-up comedy.
Been a comic for, this is my 18th, I'm on my 18th year now. So.
Okay, so be funny. And then,
I get paid to do it.
So, love the food there.
Good.
We did a podcast and got a couple of little snippets of things that have gone on there, and it's a little bit of a creepy place. So, and it already has a little bit of that vibe to it, a gothic vibe to it.
It is. And that's mainly my partner, Adam, and Adam runs the bar, Nikki runs the kitchen. I'm legit just a maintenance guy, but I get to be there when nobody else is there. So, like, even 2 weeks ago, it wasn't even 2 weeks ago, it was like 8 days ago, I'm a big skeptic. Like, I don't believe in ghosts. Like, at all. I'm hardcore. But you have no choice. Like, I see shit out of the corner of my eye in my bar nonstop. And while we were remodeling and building and doing everything to make it a good bar, I nonstop would spook everyone who see. Like, everyone's kind of on edge. When the place is closed, there's something... And I don't want to say there is.
It's an energy.
But
whatever, right?
You know, I'm not that guy. Like I'm a very logical person, but I find myself cocking my head constantly, like thinking something's there and looking.
And yet you don't believe it.
No.
So really, it's just a feeling you get.
No, it's a paranoia.
People have seen things moving through
They
your
have.
bar.
They have.
Have you heard any stories that creeped you out a little bit?
Apparently there's some chick there. I never see, like, somebody dainty. Like, it's supposed to be kind of a short lady.
Yeah.
I never see that. I always see something large when I turn my head. Like, I always see it out the corner of my eye. Like, literally the other night, I was there till 4 a.m. And because of my skeptic brain wants to say I'm exhausted. Because I had been there for 12 fucking hours working on a goddamn fry master. I want to say...
Rewiring it?
It literally, I was trying to make 2 fryers into one. You know what I mean? But I kept flipping my head over thinking it was something bigger out of my peripheral vision. You know what I mean? I never see anything small and light like a lot of other people have said.
Yeah.
So, it's always a dark figure, and I flip my head over, and I'm just thinking, I don't want to say that there's ghosts.
Why? Isn't it comforting in a way to know that there's more to the universe than what we're looking at?
Why is that comforting?
Because we just don't end right here, right? There's more.
Why?
Well, because you're enjoying yourself, you're having fun, you're on stage,
but
you're doing things. Don't you want to keep it going in some other realm?
No, the crowds would probably be horrible. If I went to hell, I would just get heckled constantly.
Yeah, well, that is hell. That is hell.
It is. It really is.
And
if I went to heaven, they would just laugh at everything I had to say. I like the in between. I'm digging this.
You're going to end up in the mid spot. You get stuck in the bar. It'll be you, and they'll say, "Now there's something big going on."
Purgatory will be like no matter what I said, they laughed just enough to make sure I didn't feel good about it. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like that. Like what you're doing.
Yeah. It's a polite laugh. Actually,
It is.
That was not forced. That was very funny.
Yeah, but It sounded like a flat laugh.
Well, I haven't had enough to drink yet, you know. So the food there at this place is unbelievable.
It is.
It is, and I want to say Tex-Mex, but it really isn't. It's a unique blend of flavors.
Definitely more Cuban.
Yes, that's right.
She hates the word chef, but she's phenomenal. She's our cook, Nikki De La Paz. She's ran many kitchens. She's kind of a Tacoma staple. Same with my partner Adam. I was really good friends with him. He's with her, and it all made sense to open a bar.
So all three of you own this together.
Technically, it's just me and Adam, but Nikki is
She's with him.
Yeah, she has the bar. She's the bar manager or the kitchen manager, and has carte blanche. Whatever she needs, we make sure she has. Just because she's so talented.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. And I normally ride my Vespa scooter to haunted bars, dive bars,
That sounds so
classic
funny,
pubs,
man.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't normally bring my wife, and I went out there with the team, right?
Yeah.
We had a great afternoon. I said, "You're coming back here."
Yeah.
I brought her for Mother's Day,
Nice.
and my son,
That's-
and of course he.
I don't know if that's a good
he loved,
move
no,
or
he
bad
loved it.
move. All
She
right.
walked in and she went, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
this is
It's
so
a-
good."
it's a different kind of spot.
Tonight we're going there. It was her idea. We're going to Church's Cantina, and she's like a para-educator in a grade school.
That's
She's like,
awesome.
"We're going out there."
Yeah. Are you coming from far? Like, do you live?
We live on near northeast Tacoma,
Okay.
near Browns Point on Fife,
Yeah.
on Fife Heights.
So that's a bit of a drive. Like that's the part that I've appreciated is a lot of North End Tacoma doesn't normally venture out of Proctor or
Right,
6th Ave.
right.
6th Ave is the cutoff for Tacoma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that a lot of people are going just not even a mile further. Well, I guess it's about a mile further.
Yeah, from there to the Broken Spoke to South Tacoma.
Yeah, we have a decent following. I don't know.
I bet you do. I mean,
we've gotten lucky.
yeah.
It's
So nice work, Rusty. And we're
I
going
had
to come
nothing
see
to do
your
with
comedy
it.
show as well.
I'm if you want to find me on Facebook, I'm Rusty Comedian, and bug me there, and I'll let you know what shows I'm doing. And
That would be great.
Yeah.
All right, thanks,
I like
Rusty.
what you're doing as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good job.
Finally, another non-believer.
Oh, yeah, a non-believer
I'm
that
a
got
big Rusty
haunted.
fan.
He got haunted. He just doesn't want to say there's ghosts.
Yeah,
He doesn't buy it.
he was, for being a non-believer, he was sure sounding like a believer, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, something made him uncomfortable.
He's
Yeah.
a feeler, not a believer. He feels something.
He's an intuitive.
What
He's
I
an
would-
empath.
My question for Rusty was, he said he was working on a Frymaster, or was it a Thighmaster?
He was working on the Frymaster while working his Thighmaster, so to speak. And he did say there was some hot oil involved.
Sorry, Rusty.
He's going to kick you out.
Yeah, he is a big guy. So anyway, thanks, Rusty. That was fun, and we're looking forward to many a good meal and cocktail at the church cantina.
Well, what time is it, boys?
Well, it's
Time for
Scooter News.
oh God.
what do you have in the hopper today?
This one is kind of close to the heart and close to the soul.
Oh,
What would make a new Catholic happier at anything in the world?
you didn't get the number one Catholic in the world on your side, did you?
New Catholic. I'm the number one new Catholic.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's a new Catholic, but
We did experience somebody that didn't buy into your new Catholic, which we'll get to
No,
on the
she
next
just looked at
podcast.
me and she
Yeah.
said, you and I need to talk. Oh, mother.
Yes, you did.
So what would make me happier? That's if Pope Francis rode a Vespa.
And
Apparently, he was given one.
by who?
He was given one. He's upgraded the Pope Mobile.
It's about time.
So the
John Paul wrote that.
there was an international Rome Caput Vespa rally that gathered over 600 Vespas and their riders at the Vatican, at the Italian capital. In the Italian capital, maybe that's not the Vatican, is it?
Rome.
you're the
Okay.
Catholic.
Okay, I'm still working on my catechism.
That's old Catholic,
Yeah, but
anyway.
your knees are getting the callus over.
So that was flooded with hundreds of Vespas. 640 riders attended the Angelus at St. Peter's Basilica. Prior to the Mass, the Pope and his person, Cardinal Konrad Krajewski, who met with...
Is he related to Paul Andrzejewski?
Paul Andrzejewski? No, they're different people. Who does SeattleBars.org?
Yeah.
No, he's a great source of information. But they met with the founder of the Roman club Vespa, as well as a Vespa racer, Giuseppe Cow.
Ah, Giuseppe.
Oh, yeah, I've got his poster on my wall.
Here's what's important on the ceiling.
That's different kind of news.
Smaller.
Is your Farrah Fawcett poster still up there? They offered Pope Francis a 1971 Vespa 50R in white livery, decorated with the Vatican coat of arms, complete with the matching helmet.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Did it have a bulletproof face shield on it?
No, they said no shield necessary because he's only going to ride it around within the Vatican on those on the bricks that are there. Yeah. So pretty cool. They also gave him a personalized license plate that read BF 362918. And let's be clear, the B is for Bergoglio, F is for Francis. Not what you're thinking.
Oh, understood.
36 for the Pope's year of birth, and 2918 for September 2nd, 18, the date the Vespa was received. And Giuseppe Cow also threw in a copy of his autobiography, The Night of the Vespa. So I'm sure the Pope will read that.
When he's
Cow
on the
was
shitter.
he was a successful Vespa rider 70 years ago. That's a long time.
You know what?
Define successful Vespa rider.
Me, I made it home alive after this.
And
last
you're almost
ride.
70.
No, I'm not even close.
That's why he's so kindred with the Pope.
Cardinal Krajewski even took the Vespa for a little spin around, and why wouldn't he? Like all other vehicles gifted to the Pope, the Vespa will be auctioned off for charity eventually.
Don't tell my wife that.
Well, they're going to go to some bars first and chase some ghosts.
You think the Cardinal's nickname is Krajewski or Juski?
You know what else?
Because he's not Jewish.
They were also given a white and gold Lamborghini Hurricane, an Opel America, Ampera. That's the Chevy Bolt's European cousin, and a Harley Davidson. Could have built quite a garage, they say, here from Piaggio Group, but charity is more noble cause than building a personal kick-ass garage.
Well,
Wow.
I read that somewhere. I don't know.
That's pretty cool. I'm sure the new Catholics will be doing something similar really soon.
So the new Catholics would have kept one of them. Because that's just how we roll.
Do you have a Wii yet? Do you have a flock? Is it just you?
No, it's Nevin joined.
Oh.
I've got two. Your football coach.
That's nice.
So there you go. There's a little bit of scooter news, but I heard there's a little bit more that we need to talk about.
A bonus news flash.
Lonnie read it this morning. I shared it on Chasing Ghosts podcast page, but that
One of our
is
locals.
The Hub and the Harmon Tap Room.
Are
Not
closing.
the Harmon. Is it the Harmon Tap Room down below?
the tap room.
Yeah.
They're both owned by the Harmon,
Right.
but they're closing here in the next month or so.
Yeah, they're right up there on St. Helens. And that's unfortunate because we've all spent some money there.
Great tater
Both
tots.
places.
Yeah, and they've been around for quite a while too. But somebody said in the article I read that they think that the Tacoma beer market is oversaturated.
The craft beer market.
Yeah,
3,700 breweries or some crazy number like
Yeah.
that. I read that. And I couldn't believe it was true. That must include me because I made that cider last year. Do you remember I made that apple cider?
Barely.
It was good if you put a shot of moonshine in it. So we're sorry to hear about the Hub and the tap room, but they still have other restaurants out there. And
They'll be fine.
yeah, good luck to them. Let's get into our ride, okay?
Yeah, so we started out, our last ride before we took our annual pub crawl was...
Well, the three of us,
right?
Yeah.
We headed north. I met you two at a bar, one of our favorites called Loretta's.
What a burger.
Loretta's Norwesterner in South Park.
Yeah, which, is only about 8 miles from my house. Not far at all. I'm sorry to say I don't go there more because I should, because that's an awesome place.
Well, it's been there 100 years. It's just great, and they have one of the highest rated burgers in the nation.
You know, I was just telling a coworker about that the other day, and I couldn't really describe how good that burger was, but
I think they call it fucking delicious.
well, it is fucking delicious, but there's lots of good burgers out there, but this is right at the top.
There's something about the sweaty bun, the way they wrap it up, and the simplicity of the ingredients, but they have a relish onion sort of mixture that goes on there.
I don't know if I can do this again with the sweaty buns that you
I think it's something that has connected to the New Catholic.
Right. It makes me see God. So, yeah, we met there, and we actually, on the last podcast, did a shout-out to Tom McNeese. Is that what his name was?
Not Tom, but McNeese.
Something McNeese, yeah. Right? Nice guy.
Yeah, the
bought
elevator mechanic.
Yeah, bought us a drink, but we sat there, and we bought 2 burgers between the 3 of us because, you know, we're on the program.
I don't know why we do that shit, because it sure looks girly.
It doesn't work either.
You know what? We're proud of ourselves for being able to say, we'll share. That's just too big a plate. So we got 2 burgers. We lopped it off into thirds. We each had 2/3 of a burger. But it was before noon, and we were sucking down.
Oh, before noon. That says it all.
Tito's and soda and a little bit of a burger. And those are supposed to be hangover burgers for, late night burgers where you go in and have it at midnight and that sort of thing. That's why they're popular. But man, they're good. They are so good. And and as we mentioned before, there's a couple other places around that make them, but that's the best. That's the original.
I would go back in a heartbeat.
And from there, we headed downtown Seattle on a Saturday
downtown
afternoon.
Yeah.
And we took side streets all the way down there, and we pulled up into Pioneer Square, historic district of Seattle, a tourist area as well as a homeless, or people experiencing homelessness area.
Or a drug problem.
I think there is some homeless tourists down there, too.
You got to go somewhere. And we pulled up right in front of the Merchants Cafe.
And I had never been there.
Which claims to be one of the oldest continuously running bar in the Northwest, let alone in Seattle. And we brought up Jules Mays because we did a podcast about Jules Mays, and they just kind of laughed about it, and they said, "Oh no."
They scoffed. Yeah, they slapped them down. And
I going to college in Seattle, I used to go down to Pioneer Square all the time, the J&M Cafe, the Central Tavern, those kind of listen to live music. I used to own a bar around the corner called the Occidental Beach Club, and I put my time in down there, believe me, including the merchants, but not a lot there because the older people went there.
Here we are.
Now I fit right in. So we walked into the bar. It's a 2-level affair. Right, the bar upstairs, and you can go down the stairs. Another bar down at the bottom of the stairs. The restrooms are down there. There have been people going in doing investigations there. One of the owners at one point felt that they were haunted to the point that it made them sick. They did a whole TV show about it.
Wow!
I mean, this place is known to be not just old, not just cool and classic, but notoriously haunted, as I like to say. And we were excited to be there. We got parking right in front. We went in, and we sat down.
Somebody get killed downstairs on that one?
Well, we're all still here. Yeah, no, okay. We're all still alive. But we met a couple of the bartenders behind the bar who both had experiences.
That's right.
They agreed to talk to us about what happened, and it was pretty exciting. Do you remember their names?
No, it was a guy and a girl, though.
Right.
I think it was Ken and Barbie.
No, they were great. So let's start with, and we're going to use their names once we're in the interview. We'll remember them. Let's start with Barbie. Because both stories are great and exciting. We'll finish with Ken because his was the scariest. It included a local TV personality. So here we go, Merchants Cafe. Okay, I'm with Sarah, and she is from the Merchants Cafe, which has been open since
1889.
Man, and it's one of the classic, iconic bars here in Seattle and Pioneer Square.
It's actually the oldest restaurant that's continuously been open since then.
So they say Jules Mays down in Georgetown may also be.
No.
Might have some competition. Okay, but it's haunted.
Yes.
And you have had experiences.
Yes, so my personal experience that I had, I was coming back from a long trip and I needed a place to stay just for one night. So Darcy allowed me to stay in the Airbnb upstairs, which historically was a brothel during the Prohibition era. It's no longer a brothel, it's an Airbnb, but they allowed me to stay there for the night. So I went into the room. It's a small studio room that has a hallway in between the studio and the restroom where there's a vanity and a washer and dryer. The light above the vanity was out. So I contacted Darcy, asking if I could just get a light bulb to fix it. I could see the screw in the bottom of the light. She said, you know what, that's a hassle for me. Can you just deal without it for the night? I'm like, okay, no problem. Getting ready for a big night out with friends. Want to do my makeup and my hair. So I went back to my luggage to gather all my makeup and my curling iron stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get ready in the dark. No big deal. So I walk into the area where the vanity is. And I set all my things down, and as soon as I sit down, I don't touch the light switch or anything else. I sit down, and the light turns on. And I can see the screw in the bottom of the light bulb. So I sit there, I'm not going to question it. I do my hair, and I do my makeup, get myself completely ready, pack up all my things. As soon as I walked out, I stepped down to the studio, the light turned off and would not turn back on again.
Oh my gosh.
In my personal opinion, I feel like the ghosts here are mostly women. They're feminine. We've had stories of like guests feeling like caresses and touches and kisses on their faces and things like that. I feel like if you're like of good spirit and you're a woman, like they're there to help you out. I've never had any problems except for like being very helpful.
And there's other stories from other servers
Yes.
that work here and bartenders. And I've even watched a episode on TV about the owner that felt she had a little experience that made her sick too.
Of course,
right?
yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like most of them have been positive and friendly to me, but we've had experiences with other servers and things that have been like quite negative. Like we've had on camera a girl that was bartending, a glass fly off the shelf at her and crash on the ground.
Because she was disrespectful.
Yeah, she was just saying, oh, I don't believe in ghosts, they're superstitious, like, you know, whatever. Like she wouldn't tell any ghost stories. She kind of had like a negative attitude overall, not just towards us, but like towards just life in general. And that happened to her. She was mean.
She was mean. Sleeping with food. Okay, stop it. So, thank you, Sarah. That's a great story, and you have our sticker, so you know how to find us.
Yep, absolutely.
And, we love your bar.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, that did not sound like Barbie.
No, I guess I was wrong. That was Sarah.
That sounds a little more accurate.
You know, it would have been nice of me to listen to that interview ahead of time. So I would have said,
well, you were there
hey,
live.
Listen to Sarah. But she understands why we would call her Barbie, because she's beautiful.
Yes.
Yes, she is. Was. And she told a good story, too, about staying in the room upstairs and
staying a lot.
Yeah, getting ready to go out.
And the light bulb?
Yeah. Did she say she came in and she sat down and she did her hair and her makeup? And then the dishwasher?
Ruby, don't you take your load to town. She didn't tell us how she came home, though. Whatever happened after that?
Well, no.
A hot mess.
Yeah.
That's what I'm not allowed to be. So that was a great story, and especially about the other woman that worked behind the bar that was not as nice a person as she could have been. She got a little bit angry ghost.
Right.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you, Sarah. That was great. And we interviewed Michael, right?
He's a storyteller.
He you know what? I felt he opened up and he admitted the fact that he made some stuff up in the past, but something really happened and it changed his viewpoint. I took him at his word. I thought it was good. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, I agree. He is a good storyteller for sure. And you know he's embellished a few, but the way it came around, geez, it was one of our better stories.
He wrapped it up well.
He did.
He was going down a path there for a while.
He had a beginning, middle, and end, right? So let's hear Michael's story at the Merchants Cafe in Pioneer Square in Seattle. Okay, so I'm with Michael here at the Merchants Cafe. He's works with Sarah, and he's also experienced some paranormal activity here in the bar. So I'm going to just hand it off to him.
So my story is actually kind of funny because it starts with how I started working here. So I was working at another bar in the neighborhood, and I had a 30-minute break. And when you're a bartender, you have a 30-minute break. You're not ordering a cheeseburger someplace. You're doing as many shots as you could do in 30 minutes and still count money and smile at people, okay? And I had just met the owner of this place, like recently, just in my personal life. So I was here sitting with him, having my shots, and the manager fired the guy that works in the downstairs lounge. And so she comes to tell the owner, like, hey, I had to fire this guy. He has shifts all weekend. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, I actually had plans this weekend, so I took off from work, but my plans fell through. So I'm free. I'll come work your shifts if you buy my shots right now. And she's like, great, no problem. Swipes her card. The next day I come in, I get the bar all set up the way that I like it.
The one at the bottom of
the one at the bottom of the stairs, yeah.
With the iron gate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I'm really particular. So, like, I have to have everything in my, like, right spot before I get started, right? And so my very first customer that walks in is like, what year was this place built? How many owners has there been? Is it really haunted? Can you tell me a ghost story? I'm like, shit, lady, I just get drunk here. You know, like, they didn't even have my social security number at this point. Like, I was just covering a shift. I'm like, wait right here. I'll answer all your questions. So I go up, the owner's here. He tells me all the history. He tells me a personal ghost story that happened to him. And I'm like, great. I go downstairs. That bar maybe sits 8 people.
Right.
She sits right in my service wall, so right in front of me, for 3.5 hours. The shift was only 4 hours. But at the end, I maybe overserved her, like one. But, like, she's a cool old lady, you know? Like, in the end, she leaves me a $50 tip. And I'm like, okay. Like, I come from a nightclub where literally the night before I made 10 AMFs and I got, like, $2. So, like, to get a $50 tip, I'm like, okay, you got to get better at your fucking ghost story.
Yeah.
So then, like, duh. So the next day, I changed that story from third person to first person. I'm, like, flashing the lights on and off. Like, did you hear that? Like, that was the ghost, you know? And the tourists are loving it. They're making it rain. I'm making so much money all weekend lying, okay? It gets down to the last customer of the weekend.
See ya.
Thank you. It gets down to the last customer of the weekend, and Tony is waiting for me, who's the owner, and a couple come in, and they get their drinks, and as soon as their drinks are in front of them, they're like, can you tell me a ghost story? I'm like, bet your ass I can. And so I tell them the story. Tony's dying in the corner, because the first time he's ever heard me tell his story, let alone with all of my embellishments, right?
Okay.
Embellishments. And so they eat it up, they love it, and they're like, can we have one more drink? I'm like, sure, no problem. So I'm making their martini, and all of a sudden, I feel something hit me in the face. And it's kind of wet and kind of cold. Like someone took the lime out of their drink and threw it at me. Like, not hard enough to really piss me off, but hard enough to get my attention, for sure. And so I start looking for it. Like, I think for sure it's got to be my friend that's, like, messing with me, right? And after, like, 5 minutes, I can't find anything that would have hit me. And so I asked Tony, I'm like, hey, are you fucking with me right now? Like, did you just throw something at me? He's like, no, I've just been sitting here trying not to laugh at that story you just told. And I'm like, okay. And the wife is like, are you talking about when you were making our drink? I'm like, yeah, did you see him? She goes, no, I was watching you the whole time, and you flinched out of nowhere. She goes, I thought it was so bizarre. I grabbed my husband underneath the bar to make sure that he saw too, so that we could make fun of you later. She's like, I thought you had Tourette's or something. I'm like, okay, I don't have Tourette's, but I want to point out that you are the type of people that make fun of others with disabilities. Because I'm the type of person that lies to tourists for money. Like, and I think we're in the same boat here. Like, we're equally bad people. All
but
of the
just
things.
So you know, we're local.
Yeah. Well, I don't lie anymore, and this is why. And so we had a good laugh about it. Like, I explained that, like, everything I said before was full of shit. But this real experience just happened. Well, the creepy part of the story actually comes a couple days later. Tony picks me up for dinner, and he's like, something you said the other night, I've heard that before. And I just remembered where. And he hands me his phone, and it's a YouTube video that's broken into 3 different parts. And the first part, a local news channel, like Northwest Afternoon, you remember that show? Yeah. Did a special on the restaurant. And this particular clip was a lead-in to the special. So it was like, when we get back from our commercial break, we'll be at Merchant's Cafe. Supposedly it's haunted. And the next part, and that was kind of mocking. The next part of the clip is the unedited version. So you hear the producer, the director in the background, they're shooting the shit, whatever. and the talent is running his line over and over and over again. Well, out of nowhere, he flinches. And they're like, Dale, what are you doing? You know, like, we're rolling. Time's money. He's like, no. Something just hit me in the face. It's wet. And it's cold. I still feel it. I'm leaving. Packs all his shit, gets up, and leaves. We said exactly the same words to describe what we'd felt 12 years apart.
Oh my gosh.
We were standing in exactly the same spot. He was on the customer side, I was on the bartender side, but it's the same spot.
Man.
The third part of the clip, they slow the footage down 50 times. And I don't know if you guys have been down there. There's no windows, there's no outside light.
I walked down there a little bit ago. I had to go pee.
And imagine a filming situation. So the lighting is going to be very intentional. So there's no way after they slow this footage down, you can see an orb of light travel across the screen. And right when it gets to his shoulder, is when he freaks the fuck out.
Oh,
and
wow.
When they freeze it, right at that moment, they freeze the frame, and inside of the orb, you can see an eyes, a nose. It's basically a face. There's
Do you
no
think that's
mouth.
on YouTube?
It is definitely on YouTube.
Yeah,
it's
I'll
one of
check
the
it
top
out.
3. It's one of the top 3. Watch it on your TV.
Oh, I will.
Because it's in high def.
And that's what happened to you as
That
well.
is exactly what happened to me.
Oh, that's very, hey, very nice.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, is that your drink, or is that something cold on your face?
And wet.
Cold and
Well,
wet.
as we just heard in Michael's story, he had something that flew across the room and was cold and wet.
So apparently an orb hit him
yeah.
with eyeballs and a face and all that kind of thing, as well
Two
as
lips.
Dale, the newscaster
Yeah.
that walked out. So anyway, another great story from Michael, and wow, good
Yeah.
stuff. But we left from there.
We did.
We got our
We were
scooters.
not done yet.
That was not the main interview. You had something set up ahead of time at Kells.
I did mention that we were going to be there, and we went to one of the most famous bars in Seattle, Kells Irish Pub there in Post Alley. We parked. We walked around for a little bit. We ended up at Kells. But then we went back and got our scooters, and they let us park them right there in the
Alley.
thoroughfare where
Right.
people walk, and we just parked them right
Right.
there.
Which, Post Alley is adjacent to the Pike Place Market, which is
Right.
extremely busy. And
Oh.
we were awfully lucky to have that.
Sunny
Well, they didn't
Saturday
give us
afternoon.
permission. They just didn't care.
Right.
And we did it. So we were fortunate to have our
Yeah,
scooters
yeah,
out
you
there
can park there because it's not their ticket.
Right.
It's ours. So, we
But you set up an interview with Karen, right? Ahead of time?
I didn't really set it up. What I did is send an email saying we were going to be there on this day and we'd like to talk to a server or bartender.
So
that-
it wasn't a done deal?
It was not a done deal, but apparently I closed that deal.
Yes, you did the closing.
So we met Karen, and her family has owned that bar forever. Her dad and her mom started that bar way, way back. They still have a family home in Ireland, as well as the bar there in Seattle and
Their family
Portland
owns,
and
yeah.
in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So what a pleasure and joy to sit down. She took us upstairs and sat down with us, and we had a good conversation. But before we get there, that used to be a Butterworth mortuary.
Yeah,
If-
that's right.
If you remember, we went to the Pine Box
I like the Pine
the year
Box,
before,
yes.
and we did an interview in there, and which was another Butterworth. And the Butterworth family invented the modern funeral. They were the ones that created casket showrooms and all-encompassing one-stop shopping for funerals. It used to be you would have to go this place and that place, or build your own, sort of thing. They put it all
Build
together.
your own in Balmer, huh?
Yeah, and on top of that, Butterworth, he was there to make some dough. So he would work with people here and there, and she'll bring it up in the interview. And so I'm not going to ruin that part of it, but
Is that why? Because Karen had an accent, and the girl at the previous one had an accent.
she did. I didn't
She
hear
was
it.
German or something.
Oh, you mean at the Pine Box?
Yeah.
she was German. Yes.
That's right.
We asked her to do the
So
Chasing
both
Ghosts in
had
German. Yeah.
accents.
Right.
At Buttersworth. He
Both
was-
European, and you're Swiss.
Yes, and you were
You
talking
have
about
dual
the
citizenship.
octopus reach.
Right. That's marine. That has nothing to do with another country.
Wait. And I have a joke about a 3-headed Irish man. No, never mind.
The O'Malley twins. So, a wonderful visit with Karen at Kel's Irish Pub, and let's just get into it because it's far-reaching and wide-ranging.
Yeah, but explain the bar.
Okay, the bar. It's a dual bar. I mean, it's two buildings side by side with a door between them. Two bars doing exactly the same great thing, making great food, good drinks, fellowship, and a lot of fun.
The bartender was a professional. He was good.
He very on both sides. I mean, we had a drink on one side, then had a drink on the other side. Maybe a third one.
Check those
went
two
upstairs.
boxes.
And then went upstairs into the old casket showroom, which is now an event space, and did the interview where they've had a lot of paranormal activity. And if you go online and hear about Kel's, it's known to be the most haunted bar in Seattle. So we were very fortunate to spend this time with her and get this interview. So again, I don't want to waste this time.
Let's do it.
Let's just get into it. This is Karen. So I'm with Karen, and she is one of the owners of Kel's Irish Pub or Restaurant now in Seattle and Post Alley, and one of the most iconic bars in the city. And you also have bars in Portland. You have bars down in San Francisco. But we get you here, and she's a fiery, beautiful redhead sitting with us upstairs over the bars, and thank you for that. But tell me, we're in the Butterworth building. It used to be a mortuary. Before it was a bar. Is this place haunted?
I think it still is a mortuary. It's got living spirits and half-dead spirits. Well, depends on what you mean by haunted. Because to me, when somebody says, is it haunted? I think when you pass, my belief is that you are passing. You're in another level that some of us, I believe, have experienced and can reach that because it's on a divine, different, altogether out of this world that it's divine. And I believe that we do stay around those that love us. And when there are things unfinished, things that for some reason, because this building was built in 1903, around 1903. The city of Seattle have it on their stats as 1910. And when it was built as a mortuary. And it was during the Spanish flu. And there were a lot of people died. And a lot of people died, and their families didn't know what happened to them. There were children. There were women, there were young women, and so over the years, this had been the mortuary, and there has been a very long sordid history that involved Mr. Butterworth and the fact that he basically, to me, closed his eyes to a lot of the practices that had happened. I mean, he was just dealing in dead bodies. The way he looked at it is there were such characters as Dr. Hazard.
Yes.
And she was the infamous woman who, to this day, would have been put away for life, but she was very manipulative. She had a very dark soul and obviously didn't have a lot of love in her life. And she basically took bodies, and she was, to me, like Frankenstein.
Yeah,
and
scary.
She starved people, and she got their money. So Dr. Hazard basically starved people to death, and she lived in this grand mansion, and her husband would dress in his little suit of the day with his pocket watch and sit there, and people were impressed by her possession of this grand big house, and they'd come and see her, and she was the cure-all of cure-all, the naturopathic doctor, naturopathic wonder of the day. She advertised in very high-end glossy magazines that you would only find in today's world in
425
big attorneys' offices, or the office of execs. And
she was into intermittent or fasting. She fasted.
It was basically starvation, and that's why they called her house Starvation Heights. There was one story in particular where there were two sisters from England, and their father had been an admiral, and they'd travelled the world, and they saw one of the sisters saw her ad and thought she was ailing. She had pains in her stomach, and she said, let's go to this doctor. And they thought, okay. And they went, and they were very impressed, but the doctor separated them. And they were put into these little cold homes on the property. And but before they came to Seattle, I believe it was down near Gig Harbor where she had her...
Olala.
Yeah, that she had her property. They had stopped off in Portland because the train went through Portland, and their uncle was a doctor. So they had visited their uncle, and then they went on to see, and they told the uncle where they were going. And of course, he was a medical doctor, so he was sort of, but it was his brother's children, and in those days to travel and visit was a big thing. So they went off to their travels to Seattle, or to Gig Harbor, and to visit Dr. Hazard, and then she basically started starving them to death. And one of the sisters got very weak, and the other managed to, in her night dress, managed to crawl out of the cabin, and she got out, but the other sister passed away, and her body was brought to none other than the Butterworth building.
Where we are.
Now. And when you hear what she did, she basically had to plump up these bodies. So she basically had to make them look like they had more flesh. Whether she borrowed flesh from other bodies is something that you would probably say, yes, she did. And she made it look like these bodies were not so emaciated, and they were laid to view. So it was all made very prim and proper. Like, she published it in the paper that these people had passed. And on behold to everybody else, by the time they reached the Butterworth building, she had all their assets and all the proper documents all signed off and all legally documented.
They say that's where she got the Starvation Heights home, was from one of her patients that signed it over to her.
Well,
which is
that's
falls right into the same thing you're saying.
So, yeah, because I found on that property a lot of skeletons, and so of course they're all unmarked. I mean, how would you know? So the doctor, he sees it in the paper, and he said, I got to go to Seattle. And it's an open casket. Of course, none other than this room was filled with all the beautiful gowns that you get buried in, that you're presented in, not buried in. So, of course, these bodies were interchanged with all these clothes, so they were left in the Butterworth building, and this was what this room was used for. So you were able to recycle all these beautiful grand gowns that everybody got dressed up in. So she did that on the third floor. So people were brought in through the back bar, as we call it, and they were brought up to the third floor. They were brought up here first, the embalming, and they did all the dressing here, and then they were brought up and presented in the chapel and laid out in the chapel. So it was all made very, very official, and it was very grand. And you had the organ up there, and you had the viewing room, and very legitimate, because all this grandeur and all this, well, this is very official, they're getting buried and it must be real. And then, Dr. Hazard and her husband would show up, and maybe a few people out of respect would drop in, because obviously there's a funeral, and there you go.
Wow.
And then that's when the doctor realized, wait a minute, what happened to this? What happened to my niece? And then he speculated. He was a doctor, he knew the right strings to pull, he knew the right people to associate with. And afterwards, then there were, she was prosecuted for it, and she ended up, I believe she went to prison in it, and there's been,
She got convicted of manslaughter.
Yeah, they finally got her.
How long was she operating?
Oh, quite a few years, because
She went from Chicago to Seattle, had to leave Chicago, and came here. So what's amazing is that Butterworth, and we also went to the Pine Box, if you remember that. Yeah. It was another one of his mortuaries, which is now a bar also. And they've now, figured out that he assisted, or at least he helped slide these bodies through, right? Yeah. When they came in. And he was the first guy to have an elevator, and we met an elevator guy today. When we were at Loretta's.
Yeah, we did.
We were at Loretta's, Norwesterner, down in South Park, and he was a elevator repairman.
Technician, yeah.
And we find out this is the first place in the city with an elevator, and also the first place that ever had a coffin showroom. I mean, they put together the whole package in this building of a funeral. So and what we're doing, having these drinks, is getting us closer to it.
Thanks, Karen. No, you're getting closer to the liquid spirits.
How about you? Have you had something happen where you just couldn't explain it in this bar, in this place?
Yes. I mean, there's been quite a few apparitions, if you would call them, that have happened in here. Some of it you just can't explain. There's been times when this room was set up for a wedding rehearsal, and I had it all set up very formally, because it takes a lot of time, and I would do it. A lot of people, I would try to do my best, and I'd have all this place set up with white linens, napkins, and wine glasses and everything. And one night I had a party, and it was set up, and I came in here. I had spent my Wednesday and Thursday a couple of hours setting up each night to get this party right for Friday rehearsal. And I came in here, and I'm like, wait a minute, somebody's been in this room. And we had nobody could come up here. And I went back, and I'm like, hang on, I'm going through the camera. So I looked through the camera, but I had the feeling already, like that everything had been touched. And it was weird, because you have your tablecloth and your napkins, and I'm thinking, somebody's touched every bloody table in here. So then I go down, and I went on the look on the cameras, and I see that, well, you don't see any motion, but then the next thing you see a light. And at that time, there was a bartender, and he was working, and he came upstairs, and when he went into the toilet, went in there, the bar, everything turned on in the bar. All the lights turned on, and there was a red light for the stage, there was a leaving platform there, and the lights came on for that, and it was almost like somebody was in the room. So then I went to the other camera. Well, obviously, who's operating? There was nobody operating. So then I called the computer guy, and I'm like, hey, has anybody been in? There was nothing I could see, but there was nothing to explain why everything turned on. Nothing to do with electricity, nothing to do with the time of night, because it happened at 10:45 at night.
Wow.
It happened between 10:45 and 11 o'clock. And I said,
so he went number 2 because he was in there for 15 minutes.
No, he came out of it. So what happened was, this went on for 15. He came out of the toilet, and he looked around, and he walked over, and he turned around, and he looked, and he couldn't make out anything, and then he went back. And then there was another time, downstairs there was a man came through, and he was standing. That was one of the it was among one of the first ones I saw. There was a man came through by the kitchen.
You saw him?
Through. And then I saw...
Wait a minute. You saw a man?
I saw a man. That was my first,
full body
that was a
apparition?
Man, yeah, especially there, because I'd seen them in my house.
That's the one you read about online and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And then...
Does he wear a bowler cap?
No.
No.
And he was very swarthy skin, hat, and high cheekbones, very thin hands, double-breasted white coat, and he had white papers in his hand like this.
But it's not Butterworth.
No, but he's been up here. He's been seen up here, walking around, and apparently, I've had different people up here that have told me that he's walking around. He walks around up here. There's also a girl who's very precocious, and she's about 11, and she's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And she wants to be here, and I don't really know why. And then there's been a girl that was over
thirsty.
here.
That's why.
Not at 11.
She's not 21 brains. No, she's just very. She's a wee girl that has just got a lot of energy in her, and I don't know why she wants to be here. But then people have said, "Why are the children in here?" Well, I have 4 children, and all my children came down here, they knew everywhere in here, and they, and I look at the connection they have to here, because my father, when he passed, there's times when I'm thinking, it took me a long time my son always plays his songs, because my father was a great singer, and my son will always put on his CD when he's here. And it's funny, it's almost like he's here. And I've been told by a woman that came in here. She says, I can see, she says, who's this man in sort of a blue shirt and tie? And he's got a big smile on his face and he's greeting people. She says, why is he around you? And I'm thinking, have you been in here before? And she says, well, no. She says, she was from Chicago. And she says, but I can see your father. And so it was just real interesting because my dad didn't have a blue shirt, but she described my dad, he had tea. And she says, your dad, he's passed though. She says, man, he's passed. And she didn't know his name was Joe. And she says to me, oh yeah. She says, oh yeah, he's greeting everybody here.
Oh,
and he's
that's
singing.
so cool.
So that's why I just, when you look and you think, well, at least he's in a good place. And he's been told different things here.
When did he pass?
May 15th, 2016. And
So not long ago.
No, not that long ago.
Sorry.
No, he had Parkinson's, and I know it was really hard for him because he was a very strong man, and he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, but he was still alive 18 years ago. And he was in this late stage of Parkinson's when he went to Ireland, so it was on the 4th stage Parkinson's. And they knew, the neurologist here knew that he didn't have much time because his body your body dies. And that's where the energy, your mind, and my dad was a very religious man. And his religion to him was very, very important. He was a very, he's also a very charismatic man. Everybody thought he was Mr. Kells himself, where Kells is actually the Book of Kells. But he was also very superstitious because he didn't really believe in ghosts, even though they know they're there. But, because it's always like, that whole thing, if something happens and you see a ghost, it usually means somebody's going to pass. When anything spiritual happens. But now I've got to the point where, you know what, they're here all the time, so you know what, there must be. But I've, different fellas have passed over time here, and
that worked here? Yeah.
No, but even people that come in here, and this was their place to come. And so they want to, I've been told by different people, I wish sometimes that I had that gift, but I've been told, no, they want to just let you know they're here. And they have described people and said their name, that you cannot discount stuff like that. Because there's people who would know, and I've had people walk up to me and say, I know what you're thinking. You can't explain that stuff, especially if somebody's from the other side of the country and they come up and they say, right. This is,
And it's surprising, even to us, we came up here today and we've lived here our whole life. I'm a Husky graduate like you, and you forget how busy the market and the Post Alley area and waterfront and everything is. You forget that it is such a tourist area that you have so many people coming from all over the world that are coming in here, and they're telling you they're confirming what you already know, I guess.
I've had people come in here from Denmark, Australia, South Africa, and it's almost like everybody's in search of the unknown, but it's right in front of us. It's right here. It connects every single one of us. Like, you could have somebody come from all over the world and you're looking at them thinking, I know that person from somewhere. And it doesn't matter what race, colour, creed they are. Because I've even had people come in here from the Middle East who grew up in the Middle East, people come in from Saudi Arabia, and I'm like, you're one of us. Because if you look at history, and if you go back to even the history, and I think in Ireland, there were settlements in Ireland, villages, that when they traced them, these people left Ireland. They lived in huts, and they actually went to Persia, what is known now as Persia.
Yeah.
So you know what? They may have had donkeys in Ireland, they have camels in Persia. And the only difference is, So when you look for similarities, when you look at the things that culturally divide us, as I said to somebody the other day from Russia, the chocolate from Russia is brilliant. And there's people brought in Russian chocolate here. I used to think Irish chocolate was gorgeous. Russian chocolate is unbelievable. But when you realise what we have in common, they used to try to bring the world together with sports. You can bring it together with chocolates too. Yeah, you can bring it together with drink, and they're all on top of the world. And
well, the Irish, they love the drink because I'm 51%.
But that's
this
people.
part.
Right. Must be his brains.
Oh, Karen.
But now you got to go to Ireland.
Wonderful. I'm going to go, and you're going to be our tour guide. You're going to ride on a scooter, 2 up. All right. Thank you so much. And we are over the top thrilled to have spent this time with you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, it's too bad Ike wasn't there to tell Karen about the history
Well,
of Kells and Ireland.
His time in Dublin. Because he could straighten people out pretty fast when it comes to an American in Ireland.
I miss him.
But what a great and beautiful woman and a great voice and the whole storytelling. I could listen
It's
to that.
authentic.
You could listen to that for a long time. Well, we did.
We did, but unbelievably authentic. I mean, that's an Irish family, and there's some shit going on there for sure.
Yeah, well, green eyes and red hair.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, that was really fun. And I'll tell you, people pack themselves into that place.
You can see why if you've been there once.
Yeah,
and many people have.
So if you get to Seattle, get to Kells Irish Pub, get to the Merchants Cafe, get all over down there because
grab a Loretta's burger,
and then go underground as well. Down when you get into underground Seattle and experience some of the terrors that are down there, because this is not as old a town as Boston or New York or Baltimore or some places like that, but Seattle has a whole bunch of drama and emotion attached to it because of what's gone on over the years.
And one of these days, we're going to have to do the underground tour with the Ghost Meter and see what the hell's going on.
With the podcast, and just walk through it and see if they'll let us bring our scooters down there.
And a nip.
Easy.
A pinch of whiskey.
Oh, got it.
No, we're not part of the Shanghai Tunnels anymore.
Right. So, great interview with Karen. And,
okay, hey, why don't you thank our audience and get the hell out of here?
Are we done? Is that it?
That's a wrap.
All right. So, just a reminder we want to thank you for listening to this if you made it this far. And we want to thank Weeknights for the original music. He tells me they're very close to having the new song for our podcast that I have to pay a whole bunch of, we have to pay a whole bunch of money.
You know what? Those guys drink our leftover liquor all the damn time.
When they were in high school, they did that. They did it. And who else do we have to thank, guys?
A lot of people.
Way to jump in.
All the little people behind the scenes.
Yeah, right. So, our listeners, Weeknights, our writing team of podcasters, and of course, as I say, the universe for providing us this great content that we get to talk about every other month.
Or so.
Until
almost
then,
consistent.
All right. Until then, be safe out there. Head on a swivel. Keep your rubber side down and ride. Baby.
Ride.
All right.